everybody. Keith Engle here for TGI Sports Talks. Are you serious? I'll be joined by my co-host, the Mad New Yorker, here in just a little bit. Hopefully, good morning, Rick Sherlock. How are you? Hopefully, our video will go better than it went Sunday. And as I looked back at the shows from last Friday, it looked like there were some buffering issues then too. I've been working hard on the internet connection here. So hopefully we've fixed that issue. Hopefully. I don't see anything right now telling me we have any problem, but please, I feel like I'm buffering a little bit as I talk, but we'll have to check it out. Maybe it's just me. Might be just my video in my eyes. Anyway, welcome. Welcome to all those on Northeast Streaming Sports and Let's Talk Sports, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. If you see us on Sideline Sports, not sure what the situation is there, but I'll get some clarification there early, too. Good morning, Alan. Good to have you with us this morning. Alan, one of the major contributors to Let's Talk Sports. So I apologize for the buffering issues last week. Hopefully they're better. Hopefully you guys will keep me abreast of that during the course of this show and the shows to come. Remember, later today we'll have the Major League Baseball update. We'll talk a little bit more in depth about the hatred I now have for the Major League Baseball All-Star game and some other news. And we'll have Let's Talk Sports, New York Sports, Let's Talk New York Sports with Dan Harris at 5 o'clock. Today, I'll be joined by the Mad New Yorker here a little bit. He didn't seem to get my link to the show this morning. But we're going to talk Yankees, Sean Casey, the new hitting coach, and no more cover. So you've blamed the hitting coach for their woes. And by the way, the hitting woes are deep. But, no more cover for Brian Cashman and Aaron Boone. So we'll talk about that. Good so far. There may be a retired Perth audio video. I get Buck Buchanan on this. I don't know who was your ear as Buck Buchanan. But, so we'll talk about that. And you look at, it's time. This team needs to produce, needs to win a postseason, or Boone and Cashman have to go. There's no more cover. We'll also talk about Saquon Barkley. Will he skip the season if he doesn't get his extension? The deadline for an extension is Monday, or they cannot talk, I believe, until after the 2023 season. And he does not want to play this season for the franchise tag. So we'll talk about that. The Knicks on the verge of trading, and possibly trading one of my favorite players for, if I can get this guy's name right, bear with me here a second. Oh, my God, I'm going to get it wrong, and I hate it when I get it wrong, but let's see if I can find it. Knicks are on the of course, I can't find his name. I'll go by my notes here. Anunoby. OG Anunoby from the Raptors. So we'll see it. But Barrett quickly talked greatly in those transactions. So we'll see how that goes. And we'll talk the whole Northwestern scandal. I want to get into this. This is as ugly as anything I've ever seen. Hazing, it's 2023. Let's stop hazing. If you want to, if the seniors want to make the freshmen fold their laundry or get their lunch, great. If they don't, then please. Pat Fitzgerald loses a job at Northwestern. Interestingly enough, all the assistants, who I think, listen, I have to believe the coaches all know this is going on. Things are going on in the locker room. But the assistant coaches have not been let go, at least not any significant number. In fact, the defensive coordinator, Braun, will be taking over. David Braun will take over the Northwestern football program on an interim basis. we'll get into that more. As we'll have the college football huddle, I think, back Wednesday night, I believe. Does it seem like time, guys, to get the college sports huddle back on Wednesday nights? I hope so. What do we got here? If you missed our baseball show Tuesday, my bold prediction was the Yankees will finish last the American League East if they can't fix things. Well, again, I don't disagree. I think they'll finish ahead of the Red Sox. I just don't think the Red Sox will maintain, the even the mediocre pace that they have going right now. But really, don't qualify it, Alan. Say they'll finish last. Not if they don't fix things. I mean, it's easy for me to say if they play like they're playing now, they'll finish last. So your prediction, I'm going to assume, is they will finish last because they will not fix things. Because I have my doubts they'll fix things. I like Sean Casey. I like Sean Casey's attitude. I like what he'll bring to this team. But I'm unsure. In fact, we're going to start there, and when Carlos gets in, we'll pick it up with him. Whoops, wrong one. We're going to start there. I like Sean Casey. I think Sean Casey will bring an upbeat attitude to this team, and I like his again. It's an attitude thing. Do I know how well he'll do? He's never coached on a major league level, but to me that's not a. I don't think that's necessarily a huge drawback. The Yankees have had really good coaches over the years who never coached at any level. Ron Guidry came in here, was a pitching coach and did very well. Don Mattingly was a batting coach and a bench coach with no experience when he came in here. Everybody had no experience at some point. What do we got here? Rick will be interested in Carlos' take on only the head coach getting fired at Northwestern, the guy furthest from the players. Now, I don't disagree. He's got to know what's going on. There is no way the head coach can't get fired in this situation, Rick. So I'll start there. But you're absolutely right. The coaches, the assistant coaches, are spending much more time with these players than the head coach. And lack of administrative control is one of the things that gets these head coaches fired. And Pat Fitzgerald, who I like. Pat Fitzgerald had a great run at Northwestern, greatest coach in history at Northwestern. Gary Bennett close only because he got him to a Rose Bowl, but that more sustained success from Pat Fitzgerald. Name mentioned for head coaching jobs in the NFL. It's just an ugly situation. It's not something that can happen in 2023. These are criminal things. We don't know all the details, but from what I can piece together, these are criminal actions. Where's Carlos? Carlos, why are you not popping in? I sent you the link. I'm not sure why you're. Maybe I'll put it in here if you'd like. We don't need to know whether Shane. I just mentioned whether Sean Casey has coached. He's coached kids. He has coached on a much lower level. Many coaches have come in and been successful, never having coached before. Ron Guidry never coached anywhere before he coached the Yankee pitchers. He coached in spring training. Don Mattingly had no experience before he became a bench coach. So do I say this is going to work? I don't know. There's a lot of guys to turn around. Still got some music playing here, don't I? Turn that off. I'm not sure. So, Carlos, why aren't you popping in here? What's the deal? Anyway, you comment on that, Carlos, and we'll bring you in as soon as you can get there. But here's the thing. When I talk about Sean Casey, by the way, has got a very short leash. He's only been guaranteed this job through the end of the season. And I think Boone and Cashman should be guaranteed nothing past the end of the season. They finished last, like I'm sorry about that, Alan. Alan says, then how can you not fire these guys? If they finish fourth, if they miss the playoffs, how can you not fire these guys? If they go to the playoffs and get knocked out in the first round, how do you not fire these guys? Now, Carlos is going to say, and not totally wrong, it's the player's fault. Players didn't perform. Well, Cashman keeps putting these teams together. I'll talk about this more on the Major League Baseball update later today, I'm sure. Cashman keeps putting these flawed teams together year after year with no repercussions. 25 years. What do you got to show for it? 25 years ago was 1997. Those teams were built first by George Michael, Gene Michael, and Buck Showalter. You know, you've presided over 25 years in the Yankees, 25 plus years, I suppose. He's been in the organization a long time, but he's been the GM 25 years. When the Marlins have as many World Series victories as you have since 2003 in the last 20 years, something's wrong. When the Royals have gone to twice as many World Series as you have in the last 10 years, something's wrong. And they won one. The Royals. And when you dictate what your manager should be doing lineup-wise and whatever else, there's a bold prediction without a qualification. I think the Yankees will make the playoffs and go out in the first round. That's what I think right now. My opinion could change based on guys getting their crap together and pitchers getting healthy. I mean, we forget, too, the pitching staff is a mess. Absolute mess. Absolute mess. How crazy would it have been for the Yankees to finish last this year? Oh, Mets. Like, Yankees and Mets. Sorry, I missed that. That's an important distinction, right? I don't think the Mets will finish last because they're not finishing below the Nationals. Mets, this next few weeks for the Mets is going to be very important. See what happens. But and for the Yankees will be buyers. Mets, it's hard to tell what they're going to do. I think the next couple of weeks will decide what they do. They're not going to be able to move Scherzer or Verlander. I see no way. But they do have other guys that they can move that have expiring contracts. Carrasco in the pitching staff for one. You got a few other guys that aren't coming to the top of my head right now, but they'll make some moves, and you look at they may make some moves without giving up. Hold on, the Mad New Yorker is like, I don't open up all this stuff because I'm trying to make sure we continue with a good feed here. We got to get Carlos the link in a different venue here. Where's he asked me to send it? This is great radio or good TV, right? And Messenger. All right. Well, let me find you, Carlos. First, I got to find you. Carlos, where are you? You guys blamed Carlos for the... I send this stuff on Thursday, Carlos, so I don't have to worry about this stuff, by the way. And I'm all good to go. I set these shows up on Thursday afternoon. I got a real job to worry about. And there's CA. CA, by the way, CA, thank you for popping in today. And I do want to get, since I'm in here, I'm going to get to the fantasy football league here. And I'm going to, if I can find it. How do I find it? Guys, get in our fantasy football league. We'll have some fun. I don't know if we'll do the pick'em. Maybe, I know if the pick'em's gotten a little stale and we have guys in there we don't necessarily know who they are. We'll find out who they are in fantasy football, and we'll have some fun. And see, I do want to talk with you at some point about some of the parameters. And again, I'm not saying we have to make any changes, but I'd like to consider some changes to the fantasy football. Excuse me. Boy, it sounds like Foster Brooks here. Yeah, now I'm not able to get to what I want to do. I will post it in the comments here in just a few minutes. But it's on the TGI Sports Talk page. It's on my personal page. Join the Fantasy Football League, and some of the parameters could change, but we'll talk to CA about that when we get a chance. Nothing major. Good morning, Carlos. Thanks for making an appearance here.
Thank you for semi-inviting me.
Carlos is. I have to invite Carlos now 7 times because he's some kind of diva.
Better late than never.
I gotta beg him to get on the show. Anyway, where's Carlos? So let me look at your last comment before you're here now. Mets will sign up Pete Alonso. We're talking about their issues with the pitching will be replaced Max and maybe Vlander. You know what? How are they going to trade him? They can't. They can't trade him without eating the contracts. And,
right, they'll eat the contract probably. They'll look for places that they can find them, but.
Rick, the date is we have a tentative date for the fantasy football draft. It's on the site. I can't remember it right now. It's like 8. CA, you can speak up. 8:25 at 8 o'clock, but that we can move that if we have to.
Hey Rick, did you not get the invite to the MGM to the resort to do the picks?
Oh yeah, it'll be in person. All expenses paid by the Mad New Yorker.
Vegas, baby.
And Rick, you can set a lineup. You can set a, your what's the word I'm looking for? Your preferences, your draft order if you want. It's not perfect, but you can do that without showing up to the draft even, and you can make moves. If we have 12 teams, there'll be plenty of players available. So anyway, let's continue our conversation here because we got a couple of topics we want to get into. Sean Casey is a nice pickup, I said, Carlos, but I like his attitude. He's guaranteed nothing through the end of the year. But there's no more cover for Cashman or Boone. This is their team. Injuries happen to every team, but even without the injuries, this team is flawed as always. And Cashman and Boone have no cover for their own negligence here, in my mind.
Yeah, I believe this is their cover, though. Like hiring somebody mid-season, trying to change your strategy. As far as getting these guys who know how to hit back into the swing of things. I think the most important thing here that we got to realize is that Casey hasn't been with the team, even though he knows baseball. He hasn't been with the team all season. Second, I know you're probably going to argue with me this, but pitching's changed, man. It's not the same as it used to be. Spin rate, velocities. You're getting all these analytics, all that stuff that you don't like about. But it's not easy to go up there and hit a ball that has all this. Let me finish before you cut me up.
Never
with your razor blades. And I feel like if you guys had the opportunity to watch the home run derby, I mean, these guys ain't throwing the ball. They're not throwing cupcakes like they threw them in the home run derby. This is a totally different game now, and so Sean Casey probably help you with your mechanics, but the mechanics ain't going to help you stand in front of the pitcher and to find the ball. That's not how that works. So now you can cut me up with your 1,000 razor blade cuts.
What's Luis Serraza hitting for the Marlins? What's his batting average?
Yeah, but he's one guy. He's one guy.
One guy can do it. They can all do it. I mean, come on.
That's not necessarily true. Look,
the pitching is no better than it was 30 years ago. In fact, it's worse because they don't pitch enough innings, which is a totally different argument. And the hitter's approach is what's different. And that's why the batting averages are so low and the strikeouts are so high. Because all they care about is 3 true outcomes: walks, home runs, and strikeouts. That's what the game is today.
Yeah, but you got to understand that if pitchers see that they can try to get away with things, then that's what they'll go for. But, I mean, once people figure out Kodai Senga, for instance, and the fact that he's throwing those fork balls, once they figure out, you think he's going to be the same,
it's something different
kind of all-star pitcher that he is right now? No, because they know that he's going to have to pitch other things other than that fork ball.
Good hitters will figure that out, yes.
So, I mean, some guys have – look, if it was true, Keith, some guys would have seasons like Tony Gwynn, where they were like consistently hitting the ball 3, 4, 5 seasons in a row before they started a slump. Like Tony Gwynn hit a slump maybe 2 times in his career, and it wasn't even that long of a slump. So, those kind of things, they don't exist, man.
They don't exist, but you're excusing it as the pitchers are so much better. And I'm telling you, the hitters' approach is what's causing it. Listen, both things can be true, by the way. The pitching can be better. The pitching can be better, and the approach can be worse.
I'm not saying that the pitching is so much better. I'm saying that pitchers know more of what they have to pitch or what they can try to pitch because they have so much information. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to strike out players, but they'll make it hard for them to hit, right? Because the idea isn't that we're going to strike out every player. The idea is make every opportunity for the hitter to just kind of like get him out the way. There's not guys that are going out there and just striking out players left and right. And in fact, if pitching was so great right now, the pitcher in on the Miami Floridas, he had a great season last year, but this season he's okay. He's not doing as great as he was last year.
But there's other pitchers that are doing just as well as he did. Just because he's having an off year doesn't prove your point. The strikeouts. They've made all these changes, and batting average has risen a bit, but strikeouts are still up because of the way hitters approach the game. You pitch guys one inning and let them throw 110 miles an hour.
Yeah, I know, but look, like for instance, the team that I've watched the most live, and I'm not just saying like on TV, I'm talking about live, is the Mets because I'm a season ticket holder now. This is a team that takes a lot of balls. They'll try to ride a pitcher, a few players. You're talking about even Vogelback. He's not the best hitter, but he takes a different approach. Nemo takes a different approach. McNeil these guys take a different approach, and they're some of the better. They're some of the better at bats. Now, saying that, when they hit the ball, they don't always hit home runs. So. No. If you're taking a good at bat and you're hitting the ball fouls and then you get walked, that's a different type of element, right?
That's not new. The Yankee dynasties in the 90s, that's what they did. They wore out starting pitchers by their on base percentage was better than anybody in baseball.
Right.
Yankees on base percentage right now is 300 as a team. That is atrocious.
But again, the team was built to hit home runs. So they're going to strike out because they're trying to hit home runs. They're not taking the approach of trying just to get on the base.
What did I just say? Everybody's approach is to hit home runs. Everybody. McNeil, you bring up McNeil. He's hitting 250 and he's got a 320 on base percentage. He's awful this year.
I know. And then when I go see him, he's like they're walking him or he gets on base and it's just frustrating. I'm like, why don't you do this when I'm not here? Like,
and he's not valuable to that team hitting 250 because he has no power. So
but how is Sean Casey going to have that effect on the Yankees? How is he going to change that?
That's his job. That is management's job, including the hitting coach, obviously, is to change guys' approach. And the problem with hitting coaches is they don't do that. And maybe because that's the organization's philosophy, because baseball does believe in the 3 true outcomes: home run, strikeout, walk. And that's what's boring about baseball. And by the way, you talk about power in the Yankee lineup. It's all right-handed. Who builds an all right-handed lineup, except for Rizzo, basically, in Yankee Stadium? Brian Cashman.
Yeah, but it hasn't been an issue until some of these home run hitters are on the DL.
This has been an issue for 4 years. They're two right-handed for 4 years at least.
So you can just say when Stanton and Judge are not in the lineup, it's hard for the Yankees to win a game. You could say that. Just be honest.
I am saying that. I'm not denying that.
Okay, so and even if Cashman has had issues with trying to build a team, he's actually done a pretty. I'm not trying to defend him. He's actually done a decent job trying to keep his job and being able to keep this same Yankees team in contention, Keith. No other in the last 25 years, no other GM can say that, and no other GM has been doing it consistently. He is the only one. If you get rid of Cashman, who are you going to replace him with, and why? The only one guy who's had anything, any kind of competition with Cashman has been Theo Epstein, and he ain't even in the ball game anymore. He's in upper management.
How about I bring in a woman who's a GM for the Marlins, who's having a great year with far less talent than the Yankees have on their roster.
And she's been put on the grind. She's had to get rid of a coach. She's had to move talent.
Good. Do it. Then
but she ain't been,
had 25 years in New York.
She's been there 3 years.
In the last 20, he's been to one World Series. One. So I'll give you two. 2023. He lost one and won one. The Marlins, have the same number of World Series wins as the Yankees in the last 20 years. The Royals have been there twice and won one. The Yankees are there once in 20 years. Come on.
Yeah, but they're still in contention. They're still competing for that for the World. Not everybody can get into the World Series and actually win. A lot of people just get to the playoffs and that's it. And which has been the Yankees.
So you'll settle for your team just being in.
I'm not the problem is that who will you get to replace Cashman? That's my problem. That's my issue, which fans need to kind of, pump the brakes. You can't get rid of the owner because he owns the team. You shouldn't get rid of the GM because he's put your team in contention for the last 20 some odd years, right? The best thing you could do is get players in that roster and have them perform to the best of their ability. You just throwing money at them doesn't mean you're going to get your return on investment. And that's the problem with almost every sport.
He brings in Josh Donaldson with no reason to think Josh Donaldson's going to play anywhere near what his contract value was because he hadn't played that way in years. But he brings him in here thinking that'll change. He does it with Joey Gallo. He does it with, I'll keep going.
You can keep going. Listen, when the Yankees, when they come up to draft, so most of the time their high drafts are on pitching, and most of the time, as much as they high draft on pitching, it's a pitching that lets them down.
Well, he also put this pitching staff together. Hello,
he's not like he's not trying. That's the problem. It's not that Cashman's not trying to get to a World Series. He's almost getting there. He just runs out of bullets when they get to the.
But he believes in analytics too freaking much. I want a guy in there who understands the game is played on the field by human beings, and I want somebody who pays attention to what happens actually during the game in the dugout, not just somebody who reads off a freaking index card and says, "Here's what I should do here."
Okay, so
baseball's boring.
The thing is that we see one thing, and the Yankees are doing another thing. We don't know that Cashman is 100% analytics, right? We know that some of his contracts he's given out have been based on analytics, and the players have gotten here and haven't been able to stay on that trajectory, which is okay because that's a human thing. Just because you did great yesterday, you're not going to be great today because it's human, like
in New York. Part of your job is to know who can play here and who can't. Understanding personalities, and he doesn't look at that. I'm sorry, he doesn't.
I don't think he does. I just think that we as fans forget that these men who pick up a bat and play the favorite sport they've been playing for years as kids have to grow up, have responsibilities, and they're not going to be the guy that you think they are when they have a great year. Not every baseball player. I bring up this point to you, like Tony Gwynn, who's this is why I think he's one of the best hitters in our lifetime, besides Ted Williams and those other guys back in the past. This guy came day in and day out, no matter what was going on, no matter what his teammates were doing, and he was hitting the ball just to hit the ball. He wasn't trying to hit home runs, and those kind of guys don't exist. They don't exist. They don't. If they did exist, they only do it for a season or two.
Guys, can somebody comment? And is Carlos once again making my argument for me? I think you're making my argument for me again, telling me the approach at the plate is what the problem is.
But again,
Ted Williams hit 400 and hit 521 career home runs.
But it's a different type of pitching going on, man. And it's so bad. It's so bad that pitchers are trying to stay on that route, and they cheat, trying to use sticky stuff, trying to use the resin, trying to do, and it's okay. That's part of their game. It's
hilarious
okay.
that we think it's the pitching when every single rule change in baseball has been made to help the offense since 1968. Every single move. Name me one rule change in Major League Baseball that has been put into effect that wasn't in favor of the offense.
Changing the shift.
Favor of the offense. What are you talking
about? Changing the shift?
Yes.
Because they've been playing with the shift for so long, it's harder on the defense.
They put that
and it's hard on the defense and it's hard on the offense because it's a change of mentality. It changes the hitter mentality for sure.
Carlos, they were even very open in why they made the move with the shift. It's because batting averages plummeted so far because guys kept hitting into the shift. That wasn't to help pitchers. That was to help hitters. Nothing. They do nothing to help pitchers. And then they, except maybe, wipe their arm off because there's some shiny stuff on it. Oh, my God. Anyway.
I'm saying, you want to replace Cashman? You got who is the first runner-up to take that job? And you can't say anybody's name because nobody had done anything to Cashman.
I will find a name, and I will find somebody who doesn't rely. It's going to be hard because the Yankees won't find somebody who doesn't rely on the analytics because everybody does today.
There's only one guy right now who would probably take the job without question in any of the New York sports teams, and that's Theo Epstein. And I don't think he's coming back to be a GM.
Theo's one of the biggest problems with the analytics getting to where they got in the first place.
You're talking about a guy who once this man left any of the teams, they all plummeted. So he's a problem?
Well, he's a problem in the way Major League Baseball is played today. Yes, he's put good teams together within the parameters of how he wants the game to be played and done a good job of getting other teams to go in the same direction. At this point, I'll take Theo Epstein. But I want a manager who's not going to be pulled, whose strings aren't going to be pulled by the front office about lineups and strategies and scripts of how games should go. I want a manager who has control on the field and actually pays attention to what might be happening in front of him.
The biggest problem that you have with that argument, and that Yankee fans, as much as either you hate or you love Boone, is that Boone being here, he only shows that he's been a winning type of coach, regardless of what you think of him. So you're going to fire a coach who's a manager who's coaching baseball. You're going to fire him when, in essence, he's been one of the most winningest managers in baseball in the last 5 years.
End of the World Series? I missed the number.
Okay, so if you're going to go on that, fine, fire him because he hasn't been to a World Series.
I am. That's only part of my problem. Also, not holding guys accountable. Watch the Yankees run the bases. Gleyber Torres just runs the bases till somebody tags him out. And Boone says, well, we've talked to him, but he keeps doing it, and he laughs it off. Last week he laughs it off one day when he went on one of these mad dashes, it worked out and he scored a run. Well, it was still bad baseball. Just because doesn't mean it was good play. And if you're constantly talking to guys you say you are, and counseling them on the way they run the bases and the way they approach the game, and they aren't changing their ways, then the players got to go or the managers got to go because something's not working.
Yeah, I've been on this field already that Torres should have been gone 2 seasons ago.
He's one guy too. I'm only mentioning one guy.
Well, I'm just saying, and some of these guys that don't listen to the manager, it's not necessarily Boone's fault, but he's the one that's going to get,
If I have a guy at work who I talk to and he keeps doing the same thing that I tell him not to do over and over and over again, I have to get rid of that guy. I'm the guy who needs to get rid of that guy and say he needs to go because he's undermining my authority on his team because he doesn't listen to anything I do or everything I say, and it's going to affect the rest of the roster.
Yeah, so now you're starting to sound like me, but here you can't just fire everybody.
I'm not asking to fire everybody.
Yeah.
I'm going to fire Boone and Cashman, who have not gotten
who are the top honchos. Like you're essentially telling the team that your guys up top don't know what they're saying. That's more undermining than anything else. When the fan base screams to fire a coach like I do, there has to be legitimate reasons, and unfortunately,
there are.
Winning and losing is one of them, and they've won more than they've lost. So, as an owner, you can't just say, I'm going to fire you and replace you with somebody who doesn't know about winning, who doesn't know about, who doesn't have the cachet to replace these two guys. If you fire Boone today, who's your manager and why?
I got to do a little research. I can find a better manager. I can find 5 better managers than him right now in baseball that might be available.
Unfortunately, Boone is in the top 10 of all managers.
Wins don't mean it. How about World Series victories? How do the Rangers get freaking Bruce Bochy with 3 World Series victories?
Do you believe that Dusty Baker has not been a manager for a team like the Mets or the Yankees because he's never won a World Series?
He has won a World Series, by the way.
Not before the Astros.
Well, he has won a World Series.
Not before the Astros. Was Dusty Baker? Would he have ever been a Mets manager or a Yankees manager? Yes or no? Without ever having won a World Series before he was with the Astros.
Probably not.
Okay, there you go.
Probably not. But that doesn't really change my argument.
You can go down the list.
The ultimate
some of the best coaching done by some of the managers available, and because they have never been in a playoff situation or haven't been into the World Series, they would never be a coach for the Yankees or the Mets. And the only reason that Boone got the opportunity that he did was the fact that he's won a World Series as a player for the Yankees. And if you don't think that argument is correct, then we don't understand the game that's being played.
I don't understand the game that's being played today. You're absolutely right. Do I understand the game of baseball better than you would ever believe? This is not the game of baseball the way it's being played today.
Because and you keep trying. Everybody who loves baseball keeps trying to love something that is from the past. This is not the past anymore. This is the future. This is the future and the future of baseball, and it's changing. And it's maybe not for the better of the game or like you wanted to see it, but it's just the way it is, man. It's happening in every sport. There's very little things that stay true to the game in every sport because of the way the athletes are today and the way things are changing today.
Again, that has to be allowed to happen.
Well, I mean, you can't keep a game or the sport the same when the players are changing,
right.
Physically and mentally and emotionally.
Let's get to another topic that I know will certainly probably have some interesting comments on. Saquon Barkley's.
Oh my goodness!
Saquon Barkley's throwing out a lot of messages that he will not play with the franchise tag, and so if they don't extend him by Monday, I believe it's Monday, they cannot negotiate with him again until after the 2023 season.
That's correct. What say you about this situation? I'll let you start.
Which, first of all, I think they probably would be smart to extend him and lock him up.
Yes.
Number one. Number two, I'm not a big fan of look at, you're on the franchise tag, get out there and play. I understand why he doesn't want to play. Running backs get hurt. He got hurt. And if he doesn't get his money now, he may never get it. But it's not like he's making chump change either. I think the Giants would be smart because this is a team on the rise. He is part of the reason they're on the rise. If you expect him to continue to help you get to a championship, you lock him up now. And I'm not sure that they're going to do it. Last guy to sit out was Le'Veon Bell. How'd that work out?
Yeah, but he was also a different player on a different team.
Agreed, but I just don't think it's a good idea for a player to sit out a season,
right.
Especially in the NFL.
No, you're right. So I say this.
And this could really sink the Giants' season if he does not play.
The Giants team's already sunk. This year is sunk already. Listen, I say this. I've never was in agreement with having this Bills management in house, anyways.
Yeah, because they stunk it up.
That's to start with. First off. All right. I don't believe in Schoen, and I don't believe in this coaching staff. Now, here's the deal. Had Saquon Barkley not saved the Giants' rear end last year on offense, he wouldn't ask for this much money. He's only asking for this much money because he wants to be the highest paid running back, which anybody who feels like they're the best running back has that. If they want to do that, fine. He's not going to sign for less than what he's asking for because he knows that the Giants aren't that good of a team anyways, that if he did sign, he would get more money.
I don't agree with
because
this.
If he believed in Daniel Jones and what the Giants were building and what the Giants had, he would have signed any kind of contract because he's going to be on the up, right? He's going to have the opportunity to play on a team that's going to be a championship caliber team, and even if they won, he has an out. That's the way their contracts are set up. Now, should he sit out? I think if he sits out, it's going to hurt him. Should he play? I think if he plays, it's going to hurt him because the Giants, they're right now in fix mode. They're right now rebuilding. They are, I believe, they're going to be 8-9 again. So, that's just the way I look at it because that quarterback is not the quarterback that you want for the future. He's just a quarterback you need in the moment. They got very
for the future. So
they got very showing his skills that he lacks, and he's very what's that word? There's a lot of trepidation in what he did. And now, had he been a GM for longer, he should have just locked both of them up, and he should have just gave Daniel Jones the minimum instead of the most, and gave Saquon maybe a little bit more, because at the end of the day, Saquon did more than Daniel Jones last year, saving their rear end in 4 or 5 games.
Daniel Jones will be playing somewhere else.
Who cares? The only people that care are the people who liked one season that Daniel Jones played well. And I'm okay with the season he played. In fact, I'm happy for the guy. I don't think he's going to be keeping it up. That's like
guy's gotten better every year since he got drafted. Every year.
You know what? He kind of reminds me of, and people probably not going to believe me, but he kind of reminds me of the what's his name, the Harvard guy that went to almost every single team. He plays one good season and they give him a contract and then he just leaves.
Well, he signed a long-term contract, so he can't just leave.
I know, but what's his name from
Fitzpatrick.
Fitzmagic, right? Every time he does something great or he looks like he can be a starting quarterback, teams will boop, boop, right and sign him up.
I don't think that's a fair comparison, but I get it. And as far as your argument about Barkley, I think you're right about the money part, but you're not right about the reason. The reason he wants as much money as he can get is these guys have a very short shelf life, and you got to get your money while you can get it. He could get hurt this year and never, ever get a long-term contract. I understand his reasoning. Problem is, he's got a contract. The rules say the Giants can put the franchise tag on him. He's got no choice. He's got a contract. He should honor it, not sit out a year. That's not good for anybody. I realize he could get hurt.
But why?
The Giants have worries that he will not hold up through the length of a.
And that's a very astute point there. The Giants are worried that if they sign him for too much money, that he if one bad thing happens, he won't be back. The reality is this, right? As a player and you have your agent. If your agent says they're not going to give you that much money, but this team, and that this team is going to be in the playoffs, an opportunity to win the Super Bowl, you're not going to play on that team? You're not going to be like, you want 13, you won't take 9.5, 10?
I personally think.
Come on, man. He knows that team. He knows the coach. And if he had any confidence that he could be in a championship run, he would have signed that paper 4 weeks ago, man.
I think he will. I think he will accept the franchise tag and play because I don't think it doesn't behoove anybody. Again, different players. I get it, Le'Veon Bell, but still, teams are going to be wary of anybody sat out a year. He's got to be conscious of the fact that it will hurt him. Your body, maybe you aren't getting any punishment, but your body's getting a year older just sitting around doing nothing.
Yeah, and the whole Le'Veon Bell situation, you can't compare because Le'Veon Bell was on a different team. And the problem with Le'Veon Bell was that he wanted more money because he was doing better than the wide receivers are doing. And he saw that Ben Roethlisberger was old. And he knew that they were going to depend on him the next season. So if he was going to get hit or smacked up in the face, he'd wanted more money for that. It wasn't nothing like the Giants situation with Saquon at all.
Well, by the way, also killed the Steelers. The Steelers were never the same, haven't been the same team since Le'Veon Bell left there.
And Le'Veon Bell, he knew that Schuster was a decent player, but he didn't want to be on the same roster as Antonio Brown, which everybody knows why now.
Yeah, well, let's not get into Antonio. Well, all right, let's make a prediction. I say he will play. He will not get his extension. He will not sit out the season.
Because he's stuck in the situation that he is, he will play. He will not be happy, and I don't think they have enough in front of him to protect him anyway. So, he's just going to eat the season, and then he's going to, as much as he wants 13, he's not going to get it if he goes to another team next season.
It's going to be tough because neither side, it doesn't benefit either side for them to sit out the season, in my mind.
Again, had the Giants been on the trajectory that's up and closer to a Super Bowl situation, this would not be an issue. This would not be an issue at all. Which goes to show you that what Sean is doing, what this new coach is doing, as much as he has all these types of weapons, it doesn't mean that the defense is good and stout enough. They have good coaching there. They have a great system there. It's the offense that's not putting up enough points to get you to where you need to be. And even if you don't have Saquon, you're still going backwards. Yeah. You're still going backwards.
It'll be interesting to see. I'm sure Giant fans would not like to see them start.
If Saquon don't come back, Delvin Cook's still out there. So, who's cheaper than $10 million?
He's also not the player that
nobody. You can't replace certain people, man.
No, he cannot be replaced. I agree. At least not what he is present day. Let's move on. I want to talk about this, and if we get to if we miss out on the Knicks conversation, fine, we'll pick it up. But the Northwestern hazing situation. What the heck year are we living in? Hazing is, it's one thing for seniors to have a freshman go get their lunch for them, or make them run through the sorority house in their underwear, whatever. These things are reaching criminal type levels, and it's just, I cannot believe this type of thing is going on under the nose of coaching staff. Pat Fitzgerald, who I've always thought was a really good coach and a good person, gets the heat here, takes the fall. But all of this coaching staff, I'm surprised Braun gets the inner job, because all of these coaches had to know what was going on. This stuff was happening in the locker room, for crying out loud.
I think the biggest problem for me is that it's been happening for years, right? They've been saying it's been happening from the beginning, and it's only gotten worse. And to me, that's what's sad, because it's like it's hard enough to be a college athlete. Now you're going out there and facing all these, these ordeals that have nothing to do with the game. And you don't have nobody to run. These players had nobody to run to. So if the head coach didn't know, they had no protection. You know what I'm saying? So I think we got to look at it in a different perspective. And then the fact was, like, the head coach gets the blame because the head coach wasn't there and responsible enough to take care of these kids, because they are still kids. They're kids becoming, young men becoming adults. And that's already another situation in itself. And again, this has nothing to do with football. If it was football based, if this is something that the teams were doing to try to become a better team, and the whole esprit de corps and all that, that's one thing. But that takes away from your goal at the end of the day, right?
A much more interesting decision for Northwestern if Pat Fitzgerald was so successful like he had been. The last couple of years have been not very good.
Right.
If he was still leading his team to bowl games every year, and competing for a Big Ten championship like he did 3 years ago, it might have been a little. It would be interesting to see what they did. But Pat Fitzgerald had to get fired. Don't get me wrong. But
you have to be naive to think that.
I think all the assistant coaches have to go as well. They all have to know what's going on. They have to. Right. And if you don't, that's just as bad. If you don't know what's going on, that's just as bad.
Yeah, my thing, there's so many different organizations and schools and the universities that deal with this issue, especially in the Greek organizations, that you as an individual, you have to speak up for yourself, man. You have to stand up for yourself, and team or no team, man, you have to do it for the greater good of yourself and the people around you, man. Like, I was part of a fraternity at school at the University of Tennessee, and I didn't, I would say I wouldn't do certain things, and people were, I was a little bit older though, but, um, you know, we no, our fraternity didn't had a stance against hazing anyways, so we were like a non-hazing, type of
Well, I think
organization.
most schools do, but
Yeah, no, it's part of the university bylaws that hazing is not allowed anyways.
right.
And even within your own organization, things can happen because different groups get kicked out of school for those type of deals. So, but this is a football team, and this is a team that, in essence, is making your university money. It's bringing in funding. It's bringing in students. It's bringing in alumni. And this is a big deal, people. This is, smell the coffee, open up your eyes. This is a huge deal. And for this man, it's not fair that he's the only one that got put on a pedestal. But you'd be naive to say that it's about justice and fairness to say that he is not accountable, right?
And how thorough could this investigation have been when in the beginning the school president suspended him for two games because of what a 6-month investigation?
And they found a lot of.
We didn't know the level this reached until these kids spoke up. Who are they interviewing?
I mean, listen, I feel this, and I think it's bad on the NCAA as far as for their accountability to the university, right? Because if this is something that's been investigated within the university and it has to be taken up to the NCAA, what is your job? And how is it the fact that it took this much time, right? You say 6 months. It should have been 2 days and been like, this is not going to happen. These are the rules. These are the guidelines. Not just with the university, but also with the NCAA.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, you're talking about issues where student athletes are being not only hurt, but even mentally, there's a huge issue with even suicidal situations because of things that happen like this.
Well, we talk about bullying, right? And
Right.
it's no different. Again, shaving a kid's head or whatever. I mean, that's far different than the things we're talking about here. You're basically sexually abusing people as part of your hazing. Again, I don't know all the details, and I don't know if I want to know them all. But you've reached criminal levels of participation here. And to be fair to Pat Fitzgerald, in a way, a bit, current players and the players that did come forward and say what was happening, they said he did not know what was going on. But to me, that is not a defense.
No, not at all.
Not knowing is as bad as knowing and turning your head. Joe Paterno,
yes,
whether he knew or didn't know at Penn State was not the question. He had to know what was going on. So either way, that's on the head coach and administrative control.
Yeah, and that's one of the biggest, heftiest weights to put on your shoulder, right? Like, you are responsible for everything, and like the whole Patino thing, and like the Paterno thing, the thing that was going on in Purdue with what's his name, Petrino, right? There's a lot of guys that sound the same in his sentence.
Purdue, he was at Louisville.
Louisville. Yeah.
I think he was at Arkansas when most of that stuff went on. Actually.
Yeah. So like, these are men who have to be accountable of younger men, and we're responsible for them, and they signed up for that. That's another thing. Is like you signed up for that, so you have to go out there and essentially, do your job and do what you signed up for, right?
Right, and protecting them in this type of situation, I think, does fall under that.
Yeah, you have kids, you have grandkids now. You don't want to send someone that you love, not unknowingly to a situation that you think Northwestern isn't a bad school, like
academically, it's a great school, obviously,
right? And it's like
football teams,
right? And it's like, and now they're going. Not only do they have to do their academics and perform, but they have to do it now. They have to perform as a student athlete. which is worse than having a job, people. If you have never had the opportunity to play college sports, it's worse than having a job because you wake up in the morning, you're with your team. You go to classes during, after you're with your team. Then you go during a break. Sometimes at lunchtime, you're with your team. Then at night, you're with your team. So even if the coach is not there, he knows he should be knowing what the team is doing.
Absolutely. Somebody's got to know.
That's crazy.
Somebody's got to know.
It's a bad situation, and there's talks of Orgeron maybe being the replacement there. I mean, I don't know if that's a pick.
It's better. He was doing his own freaking orgies for crying out loud.
I mean,
the right guy to replace Pat Fitzgerald in this situation. I can't think of a worse choice.
I mean, who would you put in that situation? Northwestern isn't.
I mean, look it's not a glamour job. It's a Big Ten job, which is.
Yeah.
But it's not a place where you're going to go and compete for national championships, except once in a decade, if you have an exception, maybe every 2 decades, even have a chance, even have a sniff at it. But
this would have been a great situation for Kellen Moore. Like, I don't like him in the Chargers because, he did what he did with the Cowboys, but this would have been like a good situation for a guy like Kellen Moore or, someone like that to go in and showcase what he can actually do. Because this is,
I think it's a very bad idea for them to name Braun the interim, because if I'm the university, I sweep the place clean and start all fresh, because you're just leaving yourself open to more stuff.
Yeah, and to be honest with you, I think they just named him interim for the situation to kind of like get going, right? They need somebody in the head coaching position, but I don't believe that he's going to stay on at all, man. And only because he was part of the last coaching staff.
Yeah. There's no way I don't think going forward he'll be a big
No.
It's going to be very hard now. It's hard to get a coaching staff together now. These guys are heading into camp right now.
Right. They finished spring practices already. So.
Yeah. Well, they'll be starting up now to get geared up for the season. The season starts in 6 weeks.
Yeah, man.
So
maybe the Giants coaching staff should go over there.
Well. Listen, the Giants coaching staff is good where they are.
That. Well, we'll see about that.
You just want to be sure. We don't have much time. We'll talk about this for like 2 minutes. Maybe we'll talk about it another. A lot of news this week with the Knicks positioning themselves towards a trade for Raptors Anunoby, if I'm saying his name right.
Right.
Problem is, the talks center around R.J. Barrett.
Yeah, I wouldn't do it.
Or quickly. And I'm not sure if I want to make that trade. Now, they got a glut at guard, and they got nobody to play this small. They have nobody that really plays this position that Anunoby plays, because he'll play opposite Randall, play the small. They got Hart, but he's not going to play,
I feel like Randall is a small forward. I would trade Randall if anything, because there's no upside to him. You know what you got with Randall. Well, you know that he's an all-star, not a superstar. Like, right. You got these young kids, and they're unfortunately forced to follow Randall wherever he goes because he's the older guy. I'm not saying he's not a great leader, but I'm just like, everybody essentially knows what Randall is about and what you can get from him, and there's no upside. So I feel like if you have all that criteria and information and you want a better team and this is the one, thorn on your side, I'd move him. I don't understand why you want to hold on to him. Because Brunson will carry the team. And Barrett can be the second guy to carry the team.
I get that, and that's not happening. So the question is going to be, first of all, is Anunoby a good fit for this team? I say he is. I think he's a great fit for this team.
He's a decent fit.
He runs the floor, and you won't be able to collapse on Randall and Brunson the way that you do. I think he is a really good choice for this team. Question is, do I want to trade Barrett or Quickly? I'm not trading Quickly.
No, I wouldn't get rid of those guys yet. And if anything, I want to see what Sims brings to the table. You got a couple guys that are young and almost ready to peak. So, I would not mess with the chemistry that's going on right now. The only one who has to worry about the chemistry is Tibbs and how to organize it, because he doesn't have a clue what he's doing right now. I mean.
Again, this isn't Tibbs. This is Leon Rose.
I know, and he needs to get on. He needs to get on the same page with his coach. the managing situation.
He needs to get his coach involved in these situations. This is how they got into the box they got into 2 years ago because Tibbs wasn't involved in those personnel decisions, and look what happened to that season.
Oh man, this is
what a crapper.
Just stop trying to sell jerseys and try to get your team going. That's
and just to CA's point here, listen, when I mentioned shaving heads, I wasn't saying it's necessarily appropriate to do that. I'm just using it as a reference point to what happened here to what might have happened historically in hazing.
And let's also note that the shaving of the head was like on the top of the better things that was going on.
Yeah, well, I'm just saying, again, stop hazing altogether. I mean,
it's not necessary.
It's not necessary. It's not needed. I mean, there's you can put some kind of menial job for freshmen to have to do for the upperclassmen. I don't care about stuff like that. But
yeah, just try to get better at your trade, man. Like that's already a tough job. Why are you adding to it?
I agree. And by the way, CA mentioned a couple things about the football league. I'm going to look at some of the criteria. We might make a few changes there, but nothing really. I like what he started with. So guys, get in there. I'll repost the link a few times. I think you got in, didn't you, Carlos? I think
I'm in already. I'm already got my draft sheets going, and there's not many Giants on there.
I saw Dan's probably not with us anymore. I missed this. I wanted to say hi to Dan Harris. We'll be on later, but let's talk New York sports. And we'll be back here. I'll be back later, too, with the MLB update. But we'll be back here next Friday. Hopefully Carlos can make it in, without 7 invites next week. But,
man, if you don't invite me to a party, man, I ain't showing up.
When you're a big star like Carlos, you have to.
I got to keep, got to keep it the Joneses and the Kardashians.
Thanks, Carlos. Great job. Guys, we'll see you next week. Have a great Friday. Maybe we'll see you later on the MLB update, or let's talk New York sports. Have a great Friday. Talk to you. Bye.